You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Hey, Jeepers. Welcome to another sweltering, melted day in Florida. We are at a balmy and cool 96 degrees, which is sad because prior to that, for the last week, we have been in the triple digits. Although a lot of places are reporting official temperatures, 95, 96, 92. My dash thermometers, even at 70 miles an hour, are saying 100, 105, 106.
That's hot.
It's hot. The feels likes down here have been in the 110, 115, 118. And I know our listeners out in Utah and those places are going, oh, well, you try. Yeah, guys, but we're running around here with 80, 85% relative humidity.
80? It's not autumn yet.
Yeah, I know.
We breathe water here. We're fish.
That's why the voice is gone. It's been a tad warm.
Yes.
So anyway, welcome to show
193, I think.
You're
yeah,
sure?
I'm pretty
you
sure.
Told me?
I can guarantee the definite possibility of an absolute maybe. Hi, I'm Scott. I'm the slapstick parts guy on a continuing mission to make this man laugh.
Yeah, he's successful. I'm Kevin. I'm the engineer, the guy who, reads instructions, uses the right tools, and usually follows the instructions. And if I don't, I know it's my fault.
Exactly. And remember, as we always share what works for us as well as what didn't, it's always up to you to do what you want to your Jeep. So do your research, read the instructions, and please
follow them.
Yeah,
Follow.
It just takes me baking my brain out in the sun to get me to say it right.
This is true. That was the roasted smell that was wafting through between the old guy and the young.
The young, sweaty, never mind.
No, I'm not going there. You went there. I didn't. Oh, heavens.
Basting in my own juices.
So, anywho, folks,
yes.
Last couple of shows have been interesting, and this one promises to be no different.
Absolutely.
But we're going to start off a little bass backwards here, and
I hope I don't have to bleep that out.
You don't. You shouldn't. Anyhow, we're going to start off a little bit of garage first, and then we're going to move into another interview,
yes.
A pretty important one, and then we'll wrap up with whatever the heck's going on, the usual kind of stuff. Apologies for the voice. It's a little hoarse, but the heat and working outside and everything else is kind of...
We had a busy morning.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot of questions over what we're up to. What are we doing? I am doing a combination of upgrades and repairs courtesy of the trip to Pennsylvania and the Butler County Jeep Heritage Invasion. Scott's over here laughing, trying to get me.
No, we can actually say this, that you were wheeling earlier.
Yeah. And I have the scars to prove it.
I'm not wrong.
No, you're not.
No, but
in
also
2 ways.
Wheeling.
I know what you mean.
Okay, good.
I know what you meant. But I'll start off with the more obvious one. One of the thunks I talked about 2 shows ago. Yeah, 2 shows ago. And I said I didn't do any damage. Well, that was to the skid plate. I did kind of cause some distress to my rear axle. Oops.
He done thumped his rear end.
I got a couple of the rear cover diff bolts that are half gone. They kind of got drugged down the rocks. They slid really well. The aluminum slides, unfortunately, leaves itself behind.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if the cover's salvageable or not. We'll find out. But after I got home and it sat for a little bit of time and a little bit of low usage, I looked underneath and I was like, ooh, she's playing Harley again. She's marking her spot.
You had some Lake Erie.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. So looked down there and said, ooh, yeah.
It was like last time I showed, I'm like, hey, is that real? Yes. Okay.
I do have a new lube locker, and whether or not I replace the diff cover depends on what I find when I remove it. I have not pulled it off yet because we had some other little things. I may have mentioned before in the show that I was helping a neighbor recover a 12 or 15-year-old Jaguar. That sounds more romantic than it was. It's just an old car, really, in this case. And we rolled it up on the flatbed trailer I have. And the second time I helped him recover it at the sales shop, we heard a crunch. And I didn't have to worry about tying it down. I did anyway, just so that you know. But I didn't have to because she went partway through the deck and was well wedged. I needed a new deck. I knew it, but I was trying to wait till I had an in-place undercover. I still don't have my barn.
Deck the halls with
pieces of car. Anyhow, so Scott has helped me. I stripped the deck off last week because I need it. We're going to trailer the CJ up to Jasper, not because there's anything wrong with the TJ, but because that's where I'm likely to break something, and I want to be able to bring it home if I'm stupid. So, and so the trailer got broken down to pieces and cleaned and sanded and repaired and repainted and restriped with the DOT C3s. You guys know what I'm talking about, the trailer stripes that keep you legal from people from doing the midnight lane changes and going, oh, there's a blank spot there. Crunch. And Scott came over today to help me put the deck boards on because that's just 16-foot long pieces of wet pressure-treated timber and a table saw don't mix with only one person.
Yeah, we want Kevin to have all his fingers and toes when he answers an email.
That is nice. Thank you.
Answering with a pen in his mouth. Click, click, click.
Anyhow, we got all the way down to the center stripe, which we're going to, after we record this show, I'll go out and cut an 1.5 by 1.5 little sliver and lay it down in between the boards so you have a center stripe to sight on as you're pulling up.
Yeah.
When or winching up or whatevering.
You must rip it. Sorry. No, it's actually kind of fun because I even made a joke about, putting some LED lights there as a joke for kind of cool. It's like, actually, people do that so they can do night loadings. I'm like, I come up with all the best ideas. I'm just late.
So, and we had to convert it. It had all the little self-drilling Torxes that everybody knows is they drill in once and hold like crazy because they don't ever come back out. They just snap off.
Yeah.
And I got most of them out and they drilled the holes, and then a lot of those don't line up with the new boards. So there's still some more work to do, but at least the manhandling of 30 or 40 pound 16-foot wet 2x8s are done, and trimming them to length, getting them, fit in. Scott learned all about fitting the edge boards because this has a C-notch edges and a C-notch front. Yeah. So you have to machine the two sideboards to fit into tapered reliefs that are actually sides of the 4-inch C-channel, and then hammer them in and lock them in. So it worked really nice. That way you don't have the edge curl on the edge of the deck. It's secured on three sides. The only exposed bolt down edges are on the back. So it's all down. There's some more drilling and bolting, but I can handle that myself over the week. But we're going to get one last board ripped down for that center stripe. And then he gets to pack up and do the great cross Florida trek again. Go east, young man.
The great east. Florida migration back.
Yeah, back to Deltona. And then I'll find some time to crawl into the TJ and keep working on it. I did learn something new.
What's that?
I kept having a battery issue. I've talked off and on about it.
Yes.
And I finally found my phantom current drain. Not a place you'd expect it. It was the betrayal moment. I have a TCI tow monitor on my Jeep that connects to the front plug. So when I'm towing the Jeep, flat towing it, it can be charged. The automatic brake system can be used, all these other little things like that if you flat tow it. But it also takes the 12-volt feed from the tow vehicle and uses it to maintain the battery in your Jeep. Except if you're not plugged into the tow vehicle. It turns out, because it is the particular one I have, I believe it's RVI, has a transmitter in it. And it's continually trying to get a hold of the tablet up front. And normally it's not a problem. A night, 2 nights, a week, it's not a big deal. But when you park it and are doing other things for a month, you come back out to a dead battery.
Yeah.
Ain't no cranky.
Ain't no cranky.
I was cranky, but the Jeep was not.
Yeah.
It charged back up beautifully. It's a brand new freaking battery, for heaven's sakes. And went back over and checked the old one I thought was dead. No, it was okay. So I now have 2 very good batteries.
Dual battery setup?
No, not enough room under that hood at this point. I'll just charge the other one and keep it in a safe storage, keep it on trickle, but it kind of helps for other things. I use it as a portable jump box for, tractors, lawn equipment, other things like that. So, yeah, you got to watch that. So if you have an auxiliary tow vehicle charge manager, check it. I took my Astro ammeter, which is a claw type, that opens and then you snap around a cable. It can actually read current draws down to the 100th of an amp inductively. You don't have to put the meter in line. The only problem is it does turn itself off after a while. So if you're doing a long-term current draw, you still have to use your VUM. But I was able to find out that the bloody thing was at periods was pulling up to an amp at a time, and a steady amp draw will sure as heck knock a battery out over a 2 or 3 week extended period. So keep that in mind, folks. The good news is it comes with an inline fuse. The even better news is you pull the fuse out, the draw goes away and everything goes back to sleep. Because what happens is when that thing kicks on and tickles the battery to run its power, it seems to wake up the ECU. Okay. So the ECU goes into, are the doors locked? Are the lights off? Is the computer off? Is the all these other things like that.
It goes into anxiety mode.
It goes into anxiety mode, and then it goes back to sleep, and then the little RCI goes tickle tickle. It's like having a 3-year-old that's had caffeine. You're or trying sugar. To go to sleep. Yeah. and they doze off, and then they bounce up. Anyhow.
It's kind of like down to the trail dog when he wants attention.
So I found it very easy just to open the inline fuse, pull the fuse out, it goes to sleep permanently. If I want to tow the vehicle again,
just put the fuse back
put the fuse back in. And I still have the advantages of the inline charger and monitor system without the current draw.
Cool.
So that was a good one. So right now, we're getting ready for Susan and I are headed up to Pickens County Sheriff's Jeep Fest up in Pickens County, Georgia. Most people call it Jasper, but that's the name of the town. It's actually the whole county, Pickens County, that's having the event.
Yeah.
So we'll be headed up that way, and I'll bring you the whoos and hollers this year. Unfortunately, Scott's got this thing called work that he has to go.
I know. I should be ashamed of myself, and I kind of am, to be honest with you. But to me,
working for a living, though, it's the thing you do until you retire, and then you're like, oh crap, I don't have any money coming in.
Well, now, if there is a rich Patreon out there that would like to sponsor us,
I'm fine. You're the one that needs to help Bucko. So there, you only have to cover half of us.
Exactly, yeah. And it's the begging half. No, I'm kidding. No.
But anyway, we'll be headed up there in about 3 weeks from when the show's being recorded.
Yeah.
So really, just got to go through the Jeep one more time, put the toolkit back together. Since we're towing it up on a trailer again, just because that's a fun event I enjoy, and if I do something stupid, I can drag the carcass back up on the trailer and get it home.
Yeah.
I've driven many times. You and I both have driven up in it together.
Mm-hmm.
Sea show about a year and a half ago when we went up to Tennessee.
Yep.
And shots of Scott visiting with Bucky.
Exactly. And you duct taping your step.
And me duct taping my step. Which is, we're still working. We're still working.
Now my step's bothering me, but moving on.
Yes. And my latest little project.
The wheeling one.
Yes, another kind of wheeling, folks. For those of you who have multi-segmented leather wheels, like TJ Mark IIs, which have the 4 spokes as opposed to the Mark 1s, which have 2 spokes. The WJs and a bunch of them, there's a bunch of them out there that have stitched leather ring steering wheels. Well, I wanted to get a new one or another one or have mine fixed or have it repaired or recovered.
Yeah.
All of which were not available in this area. I managed to find a junkyard wheel that was the correct frame and black. I had to strip it down to the bare aluminum frame and just the rim. And the leather was a little distorted around where the spokes came out, but close enough that it's on the Jeep right now. And what I am doing is I am in the process of learning how to truly not overwrap, but rewrap a TJ steering wheel in leather.
Yeah.
And we are on take 2 of the learning curve. Probably 4 if you count everything from buying one of the kits off of online. And folks, they will not do these multi-spoke wheels without having exposed edges on the spokes.
You don't want that.
And I just didn't want that. He's right. You can live with it. It works, but it doesn't look right. Okay. And plus you're wrapping over old leather. So your wheel gets fatter. Maybe that's a good for you. Maybe not. You can, get a stretchy one that just stretches and snaps on, and they look like they're stretchy snap-on, and okay.
I prefer the pink furry one.
Yeah, that's fine. Or you can do what I did. Go absolutely nutsoid, put a junkyard wheel on. It was only $18 for the temporary, because I want to use the original one that was the correct, all the dimensions. Take a razor knife, slit the little cross-stitching that's around the inside face carefully, and peel the old leather off. And then stretch it back flat and make a template. Be prepared. That template's not going to be perfect because the leather, after, in my case, an 05 in 2023 is a little old.
Especially with the
shrunk, a little stretched, a little distorted.
Yeah.
So I made paper templates and kind of played with them until finally got to something that I could put in CAD. Not because you have to use CAD, folks. It's something that I spent my entire career using, and I'm comfortable drawing in that.
Yeah.
So I did my CAD drawings, printed them out on paper. This is why I was able to do multiple paper fits. Paper doesn't stretch.
Nope.
But it gives you an idea. Then I cut out some scrap leather that I was able to borrow some pieces from a local leather shop, or actually upholstery shop in the neighborhood, that were very nice enough to just say, here, no, this is the crackly one that I just bumped. And found out the difference between leather thicknesses. And some wheels are done with what's called 3-ounce leather. 3-ounce leather's probably 2 millimeters thick.
Okay.
5-ounce is a lot thicker. It's not straight. It's like 6 or 8 millimeters thick. It's all varies. I'd have to get a chart out, so don't take those numbers too much, but it's significant. And it turns out the reason I say 5 is, guess what the TJ's original wheel was? 5 millimeter thick leather. Right. Folks, that's belt leather. Okay. It's some heavy, thick, hard to work with stuff.
Yeah.
And then you learn these terms that Scott looked at me like I was nuts. Skiving. If you've done leather work, you know what skiving is. Well, I now own a 10 millimeter good quality skiver knife. Skiving is thinning down the edge of the leather so that you can work with it.
Yeah.
You learn that the wheel has little grooves cut in it around the perimeter for seams to fit into. And if you don't sew the seam in the right spot, it doesn't fit.
It gets all lumpy.
It gets bumpy and lumpy. If you cut the leather too thin, it doesn't reach around when you stitch it. If you cut it too thick, it's loose and floppy. And so
it's a balancing act.
It is. And I made my first set of patterns, put them together. Everything was going well. I was starting to stitch them up. I was a little off on one of my fit ups. And when I got it to fit, and then I looked over at the next seam that was next to it, and it had pulled it apart because it didn't have the give. So I've adjusted and made a new set of leathers. And before everybody goes, my God, what's it costing? Look, Tandy Leather. Yes, the same Tandy that birthed Radio Shack. But Tandy Leather is still in business as a leather shop. Mm-hmm. And I was able to buy the remnant of half a cow's worth of black pebble leather for about $100. Is that cheap? Yes, for leather. Is it cheap for a steering wheel? When it's right now to get a TJ black wheel is unobtainium.
Yeah, you can't get it.
You can't get it. You can find used ones on eBay that are good to fair. And if you look close at the excellence, my junkyard one would qualify as an excellent. But at this point, I've got my fangs into it. Yeah. It's for me. I'm learning a new skill. Yeah. I have this ain't a Boy Scout wallet, from summer camp. This is some 3D origami. And I will admit, until that seam broke, I started, even my wife's looking at it, she goes, that looks as good as the steering wheel in my Mercedes. Mm-hmm. And it's now off, and the wheel is cleaned up again. It's really not hard.
No.
And if this works out, I'll tweak my patterns for this latest adjustment. So I'll have a file for those that want a PDF if you want to get absolutely nutsoid to try it yourself. Or if you're one of those people who's done leather work and goes, oh, that's easy, I didn't know it. The patterns don't look anything like what you think they look like.
Yeah, no.
I'm hoping maybe by the time I go to Georgia, it may be done. But if not, I've got a good wheel on it right now. I will be stitching again, and my poor little sewing machine that we bought decades ago for my wife to learn to sew on really isn't a leather working machine.
Yeah.
And it kind of has some difficulties, but we'll get it through there. We'll get it through there.
Kill me. No. Some people would say, well, why not just get a Grant steering wheel, delete the airbag, do all this kind of stuff?
Because I don't do that kind of stuff. That's me, though. I'm not saying for you, but that's me.
The safety devices are there for a reason. I mean, again, some people just pull fuse 4 so the airbag doesn't deploy when they go. We talked about this on other shows.
4 is the top dinger, not the airbag, but same idea.
My whole thing is that I don't want to die. I don't want a steering column jammed in my chest.
Yeah. No, I've seen too many people who walked away thanks to airbags. And so for that point of view, plus there's a rarity, the TJ doesn't have a Takata airbag.
Yeah.
And if you don't get that joke, the major recall for the world on the airbags with Takata. And TJ's one of the ones that doesn't have one.
Yes. The Lexus and Toyota and everybody.
The Mercedes. And
that was half my business.
So, sitting over here is a rather interesting piece of artwork, in the side of my office. Mm-hmm. A 2x4 on a sheet of plywood on little felt pads so it doesn't scratch the floor with a bolt sticking out the side, and sitting on it is a Jeep steering wheel. It almost looks like you're making your own car emulator for a video game or something like that. Well, it means I can sit here and stitch up close without, back strain. Because I started playing with it when I did my sample stitching. I took a piece of leather, folks, about 6 inches long, and cut it to what would be the wrap's diameter, but stretched out in length. And put the holes and stitched it up. Found out that yes, it was the right distance, because it's a thinner piece of leather takes less length or width than the fatter, because you got to have room for the material, and you want the edges to meet snug. You have a little bit of draw, but you don't want to put a whole lot of pressure. You just want enough stretch to get around the finger nubs. And I was, I figured I'd do that in short sections. How many of those I did, I'm not till I got it where when I tightened up my little baseball stitching, the best way to think of it, that I looked at the back, and lo and behold, I had little finger bumps perfectly. It drew in. And use regular contact cement is what my leather shop friend said. Yeah, we just use regular contact cement. Sweet. And we don't even necessarily let it dry. We don't want to use it as contact cement. We just brush it in there after you stretch the leather, get it centered, brush along one side, down the other, pull them tight, and then start stitching. And then let it dry inside. It adds a little moisture during the stitching to let it move, and then as it cures out, it can dry through the skin. I did not go for gloss leather. I went for a regular flat black steering wheel leather. And then once it's done, I'll use the leather sealer cream stuff on it. Same thing the factory does when they ship it to you. Yeah. So we'll see later show whether or not this actually worked. And if so, if it works well, even if it doesn't work well, I'll probably put pictures of it up on the Facebook page eventually. It's been an interesting, the failures sitting over there kind of hanging, but the good news, Scott, is everything did line up and was working. It gave way at one of the seams. You had to cut there's what are called the center seam that you actually baseball stitch when you steer. But if your leather steering wheel has butt joints in it around the circumference, you'll see those. And that literally it's just you put the two pieces of leather face to face and you run a sewing machine stitch across there. Nice. Use a black nylon thread, not a cotton thread, because it's got to take some pull and stand up to sweaty palms and all that kind of stuff. And one of mine, then you trim the excess off, because my sewing machine's foot is a cheapie, so it does not. I can't do a real tight edge seam. I need at least a 1/4 inch hanging out. Well, a 1/4 inch is too much to put in the slot. So after you cut it, you then use the straight edge on the edge. I learned this from other people online, and just draw a very sharp razor blade several times. I use a razor knife, and then you have a close cut seam, and it works really well. But if your thickness is too thick for the slot, so you need 2 thicknesses of leather to turn down into that slot in the rim. Yeah. Even nylon goes bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing, 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 bing. So anyway,
everything's got a certain tensile strength.
So that's it with the garage for now. Probably went a little longer than Scott had anticipated because he's got somebody special.
Yes.
We told Scott, all right, big boy, it's your turn.
Well, I do have experience with the Baxter Performance oil filter adapter, and it was actually a really good conversation. I learned a lot from Rick and Kevin, and it was. I wish Kevin could have been there; he would have enjoyed it. But they went up their product knowledge, why they came up with the idea, and everything. And it's actually a very good interview. So we're going to be. I'm either going to put it at the end of this show, or I'm going to put it as a separate file. So to download that one, or what do you think, Kevin?
I think you just add it in right here after you clip off this stuff we're yapping out right now and say something like, and so now let's go to Scott's little cubby hole where he has a little private chat with,
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to take a gander to my little cubby hole where I've had a private chat with the guys over at Baxter. And again, it was really kind of cool. I enjoyed the interview, and I hope you guys do too.
Yep. I'm looking forward to it, Scott.
Cool. Well, with that, as always, enjoy the show. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any of you interviews you might like, check out onthetrailpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep. Or face mail us.
Yeah, face mails.
Facebook post.
Enjoy the interview, guys.
Proceeding has been provided for entertainment only. Proper service and repair procedures are vital to the safe, reliable operation of all motor vehicles, as well as personal safety of those performing those repairs. Standard safety procedures and precaution, including the use of safety goggles and proper tools and equipment, should be followed at all times to eliminate the possibility of personal injury or improper service which could damage the vehicle or compromise its safety.
What he said. Thanks a lot for listening, guys. You guys have a great day.
Bye. I think there's a lot of reasons people drive Wranglers.